Thanks to awesomex.com for sponsoring The Bridge with Kira. Supercharge your immunity with LB17 and the other fine products at awesomex.com, OSUMEX.com.
Well, hey, I will, hey, 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 well.
Okay, we're back. And this is Kira Young, and I'm talking to Alistar Valadez of the metal band DMT. And we're talking about healing and psychedelics and fractal patterns of the universe. And I wanted to ask Alistar about the other healers, the other people who have been forced into this sort of responsibility. I'm putting it in this form for our conversation, that you feel that you have to help and others along the way. So maybe not necessarily a your traditional type of healer, but that's what you're doing. If you're shepherding people, if you're assisting or helping others, it's all for healing. That's its purpose. So
Correct.
yeah, so I want to hear about the people that have helped you and the people that you've helped and how things have come together in that respect for you.
Sure. So as far as inspiration and like what got me on this path, the the person that brought DMT to my awareness was actually the author Graham Hancock, and he's an author that does a lot of writes about ancient mysteries, and he had this book called Fingerprints of the Gods, where he goes through Egypt and just shows how all these patterns point to this lost ancient civilization that lived a long time ago. So he had this book called Supernatural, and in this book he actually goes and does ayahuasca with the shamans. He wants to see what all these artists were drawing on the walls of these temples, and so through reading his own process of going through this and his own still ongoing process of it, he's been a great inspiration on me. I've gone out and talked to him a couple of times. He'll have book signings, in our city, and I've gone up and talked to him, asked him questions about DMT, specific things, that I wanted to know by a person that's done it. So his work is great. He just put out a book called Magician of the Gods, so I know it's an extension of his work, of the Fingerprint of the Gods, in which he continues going on about this past civilization, how comets in our past destroyed our world, but he still ties in his own psychedelic process, and so he's a great one to really to inspire you. Some of the there's another person that's a big inspiration on me, but he's not even alive anymore. He died in the 70s, and that's the philosopher Alan Watts. And a lot of his work, he did DMT, he did LSD, and a lot of psychedelics, but he had a deep Eastern tradition background, so his teachings have a lot to do with looking at the world of non-duality and facing unconsciousness. So it's really a couple of these people that have inspired me. Beyond that, it's just my own witnessing of my own experience now that a lot of the learning goes on now. As far as me helping others, these posts, I think, help a lot of people. I've had people tell me they had like post-traumatic stress, and they read something I wrote, and it snapped them out of it for that moment, and they realize, that they were not crazy, and they have this process they have to, to go through, and everybody can heal. It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters how extreme your experience was or how damaged you feel you are. If you're still alive, you still have that process to heal, So we shouldn't underestimate ourselves. Um, so it's just, people on Facebook, a lot of, friends, a lot of times in my family, if people are going through problems, they know they come to me and usually
Yeah.
I'll have words to say. And it's really, I just ask questions, and you ask questions and that forces people to answer, and you can see they get uncomfortable and, it makes them have to answer. Even starting off with a simple question, who are you? That's the most confusing question to so many people. Who are you?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even know that answer.
Right. And some people think they do, but they're
Right.
wrong.
you know well, they'll give you their name, but if you type in someone's name, thousands of people have that same name, so that name is not you. You'll say, oh, well, I'm a mechanic, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a writer, I'm a radio host, announcer. There's a lot of people that do that. What if you get fired? Suddenly you're not that. That doesn't define you. What I want to know, what defines you. Who I want to know, who is looking through your eyes. Look at that and tell me who that is.
So no
And
small
most
talk
people
for
are
you.
confused.
No
What
small
was that?
talk. Yeah, no small talk for you. Those days are over. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did check out Graham Hancock's TED Talk, the banned TED Talk, where he was talking about how the ayahuasca ceremony, he really had to look at himself and how he was using cannabis, and
exactly.
I thought that was really interesting,
Right.
really,
I
really
mean,
interesting.
and he'll admit it. He was abusing it. It dominated his life, and because if I feel if you do not do the work, the universe will force you to do that work, and it'll give you an extreme experience to do it. So it's wise to do the work. And you don't have to go through that extreme battle. And but unfortunately, we don't do the work, so we get conflicts all the time in our life to keep us on our toes, to snap us out of just falling into unconscious patterns.
And how easy it is to slip into that. I mean, as easy as you were saying before in the first hour, how easy it is to not be aware of our own breath.
And we don't even notice it. The
Yeah,
transition is gone. Just like when you lay down, you go to sleep, and then you're in your dream. You don't even notice the transition. It's just suddenly happened. And I know even in
yeah.
my DMT experience, that's the transitions were like that. I remember I just blacked out. I felt like when I died, I blacked out into a nothingness, a black, just like when you go to sleep and you black out into this nothingness, and then suddenly, poof, I woke up somewhere else, and that somewhere else was I don't know where.
But there was still the awareness of the nothingness, you
Right.
know?
And so that's what
Yeah,
carries through. If you look
yeah.
carefully at your life, when you're a child, to here, to your dreams, to psychedelic experiences, there's this thing that carries through. It's the awareness. It's that thing that's looking, that thing I was saying, I want to know what's looking through your eyes. It's that carries
Yeah,
through.
yeah. So, in your travels and your studies and your experience with DMT, what are your thoughts on reincarnation? Um, do we come back, or is it part of us that comes back, or
You know, by witnessing this process, I could see how if you're not prepared for it, you could enter it, be extremely shocked, be remorseful. You demand to want to come back. No, no, send me back. No, I didn't want. No, not yet. And I think that process is what reverses us and brings us back down here, you know? And then you see a baby come into the world and he opens his eyes and the first thing he does is he cries because he realizes, oh no, no, I have to start all over again. And now I have to start from the beginning and I can't talk to no one. And they're so frustrated they cry.
yeah, Yeah, some are. My son didn't cry very much. Some don't, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the
So I
first thing
say
they do.
that
Like
sort
it
of
was so
as a
warm
joke,
and
but
yeah, it was so
I
warm
say
and
that.
dark, and then now it's all light and cold and yeah,
So I say it sort of as a joke, but it
yeah,
kind of falls in times with Buddhist thinking, and the reincarnation goes through a process of 49 days or whatever it is, and then you return back. And there's this one movie called I think it's called Enter the Void. It's kind of shocking, but it's about a process of this guy that goes through the process of death, and then he kind of goes through like the Tibetan Book of the Death levels of gateways and experiences through a re-witnessing of his own life, if that makes sense. I don't know if
sure.
you've ever seen that movie, but it's really kind of a bizarre movie. But at the very end, it comes full circle into that whole reincarnation thing, and I found that movie I resonated with it quite a bit.
Yeah, I definitely have not. I've not seen it, but I can relate to the subject matter. Just being a mom and the things that my son said to me as a toddler.
Right.
Um, just sort of acknowledging that I know who you are, and I'm glad that we're back together again. And I always look for you every time.
And me
Stuff like
too.
that.
Like, I have two kids, and they're at that age now. They're 7 and 9, so they're at the age where they're questioning things. The universe and life and death, and they're starting to get that echo of conditioning from religion. People telling them about God and what's God and this and that, and so I don't want to force them into believing what I believe. So I just ask them questions. When they ask me, what happens when you die? I go, it's the same thing when you go to sleep. What happens when you go to sleep? And, I force them to look at that and look, and then they'll be like, oh, okay, so you just pop up into another world. I'm like, of course. And to them, it was just like, oh, yeah, of course, no brainer. I remember talking to my daughter when she was young, and she told me this weird thing, but it just sounded so um, I just resonated with it. But she just said that she remembered being in her mother's belly, and that the food would come into the belly and it would teach her things. I just found that really interesting.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's true, though. Your food
And
will
she even
teach you
she even
things.
claimed that when she came out that her brother was in there, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to tell him you're in here so that they expect you to come out." I'm like, what?
Yeah. Yep. My son had this thing that he was just always in my belly before he came out. Like from the time that I began, he was just there
Right.
with me. Hey, we don't know.
But I think that there's something to that not remembering process. One thing in the DMT experience, once I died, had the life review, had the remorse, at some point, this whole world just dissolved away into a non-memory, and it was just me witnessing what I was going through. And I think a lot of people don't want to hear this, but I think when we die, this world dissolves away as quickly as a dream that we had as last night. And so I don't think we should be clinging and focusing on the details of even this life. It's your process and how you're experiencing your life, the choices you are making now. Are you becoming empowered? What path are you on? Do you have bliss in your heart, or are you going in with conflicts? And that shows you the path that you're on right now.
Right. It does. And you know, I'm thinking about that in terms of dreaming. How this morning I woke up, I knew I was having a really awesome dream. And I was like, okay, remember, remember, remember. And it just kept fading
Right.
before I could write it down. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to sleep because it's Saturday. I'm going to go back and then maybe I'll have
Right.
another one. And I did remember that one. And I dreamt about my cats gathering around wanting me to feed them. And
Right.
then I got up and that's exactly what happened. So I was like, like they do every morning. They probably
Yeah.
came to visit me in my dream. It was like, why are you sleeping in? It's time for us to eat.
And, because there's no memory of it, doesn't mean it didn't happen. That happened. And so I'll say, just because you have no memory of a past life doesn't mean there was no past life. I don't even remember things when I was a kid. It doesn't mean I was not a kid, So memory doesn't have to exist for something to still be there.
Right. Yeah. And memories can always like get jarred or come back, or something can
Hmm.
trigger them. So they really still are always there, whether they're conscious or not, whether you remember them or not.
Right, right,
And like you said, there is a reason. If you're not remembering the dream now, there's a reason.
right. So, time has gotten really weird for me, even though there's a calendar and there's a clock and all that stuff. It's like I don't look at the reality, and I'm not like a slave to that reality. I really truly feel present in this moment, and everything's always unfolding in this very moment, and that's the way like you become a master of anything, being always constantly focused, in that craft. And if you focus in your consciousness, then you're always presently ready for anything that unfolds before you. Even if you have a conflict, then you're still prepared for it. And even if you fail the test, at least you know it was just a test, and you don't take it to heart and dwell on it. You just move on and wait for the next one. Just like a great surfer, even the greatest surfers will still wipe out, but that doesn't make them stop. They'll still get up and like, all right, haha, they'll laugh it off and get back to the next one.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've been focusing on lately is trying to just accept the negative things that happen and say,
Right.
okay, this door's closing. This is, let's not focus on the traumatic aspect of it or even
Hmm.
my emotional response to it. Let's just
Hmm.
watch it.
Right.
Okay,
So, and
and
that's,
move forward.
that's on a personal level, and then we can see these patterns out on a bigger level, and you can see how terror in the world, even in America, is now starting to force people to snap out of their lull and, realize, your bubble of privilege is now suddenly not there, and look, this is the world you live in, Start looking at what your government's actually doing out there, and start looking at what's really going on in the world, and you start seeing a lot of dark stuff out there.
Many dark agendas, or one big dark agenda, depends on how you look at it. Uh, yeah, I see the evaporation of the middle class as an opportunity
Right.
for us all to come together.
So, not changing the subject, so who do you see coming through as the next president here and saving us? I mean, I don't see it. I'm not inspired by any of these candidates or anyone,
Yeah,
It's
no.
like anyone that's coming in, it looks like things are going to get worse.
Yeah, and I used to get really upset about stuff like that, but now that I don't have a TV, it's really like I take time to look at it for a little bit, but then I shut it off, and I
Right.
can really shut it off. But I used to get really upset, and it is disturbing if you really look at it. It's like, oh wow, our political system is a complete and total joke. Like that's scary.
Right.
But maybe more people realizing what a joke it all is will start seeing things for what's really going on. So maybe there's an opportunity there,
Hmm.
and to see how we're manipulated by the process rather than empowered by it, and how we can empower ourselves. So this process puts a lot of jokers in front of us. Okay.
I think
Um,
really just like witnessing this whole Donald Trump phenomenon really just validates how unconscious of a society, that we are living in.
right. Yeah. And how we mistake pathology for leadership
Right.
qualities. Yeah. Yeah. And yay narcissism. He's like the poster but the poster child for narcissistic personality disorder, and yeah, that's what gets you there. That's exactly what gets you there.
It's like I
So,
actually like watching these debates, but it's not because I'm learning about these candidates. It's just like comedy in action. It's like you're just watching like a reality show. They pick reality shows based on certain archetypes, and they want certain conflicts, and it's like you can see the different archetypes in action
ooh.
there.
So what are the archetypes then in these presidential candidates? That's a good
I'm not
thing.
that good with like actually naming them, but I could
Okay.
definitely. you know, you, I'm sure there's people that are just like Donald Trump. There's certain people just like Rand Paul. There's certain people just like Jeb Bush. So it's not like I name them. I could just see that same, type of pattern in other type of people. And, that's what dominates the whole business world right now. It's that type of fierce, cutthroat type of being. That's how these people got successful to get up there. And, it shouldn't be surprising they're so evil in their thinking when it comes to policy.
Yeah,
They,
and that the thing that always I question is like how conscious is it with these people? How conscious are they of their own evil? Or is it their unconsciousness that causes them to act that way?
well, they're definitely choosing, they choose to do the things that they
Yeah.
do. I'm sure there's some thought put into anything they do. Um, there's a heavy influence, it's not like anybody in that power can really make any type of choice on their own. They're definitely influenced to always go one way or the other.
Yeah, always
And
puppets.
and it's that influence, whether it's their own dark thoughts or whether if it's other dark people above them, you know, we just have to face that it is there, and stop pretending it's not there.
Yeah. What I see with the people who like Trump is that these are the people who are still hanging on to the idea that anybody can attain the American dream. So
Hmm.
anybody can be a filthy rich asshole like him. Like it's a privilege to be an asshole like that.
Right,
Um,
right.
and people
And
want that. Like they want to have the right to be a privileged asshole. And so that's what I'm seeing with his fans. The people are like, "Oh yeah, he tells it like it is." And I was like, "Really? Does he really tell it like it is?" I mean, I think there might be a couple other people that could break things down a little better, but
you'd figure, you figure somebody would be able to easily combat his type of mentality, but you see how he's just dominating all those guys. It's like, you know what it is? People are just so tired and bored of the cardboard politicians. So they just, it's exciting, it's like change in a sense, because it's not going to be the same old boring, you know, you know, same old boring Obama speeches.
right, right, where there's it's this anti-intellectualism too, that you don't have to be a smart person to or an educated person or well-spoken even to make a lot of money and be really privileged
Right.
or even be the president. So I imagine that he would appeal to those people who are still clinging to that idea, the people who basically vote against their own interests because they're clinging to that idea that it's actually possible for me someday to attain this form of privilege.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the sad thing is, I wouldn't even be shocked if he won because it's like, who's gonna be Hillary Clinton? It's like she has her own dark cloud over her too. It's like, who's there really to vote for?
well, what about Bernie Sanders?
He's the only one that kind of talks the talk. Um, but I just think he's still also out of touch with that that person like you and me, the middle class, like even the lower class. He's still in that other realm of treating the world kind of like a corporation. Everything's just numbers, and we got to just help this number of people. It's not at that personal level yet.
Hmm. Hmm.
You
I
know, to me,
wonder.
I
I
mean,
mean,
he's
yeah,
definitely, I would say out of the group, he's probably the lesser of evils, you know? That's what
right.
people would say, you know,
Yeah,
but he's still one of the guys there, you know?
he's still in the club, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
or he wouldn't be there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I question, is he just saying, like, just like Obama did, is he just saying what we want to hear? Yeah, I'm going to legalize weed and, um, so I don't know. I mean, I guess that remains to be seen, and the only way we would find out is if he won.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's certainly a possibility as well. Just as much as Trump winning, that's a possibility. Um, I imagine. In terms of popularity, there's just as many people that like Bernie Sanders as Donald Trump,
Right.
I would say.
So, and then, you know, I always tease my friends that a lot of my friends get upset anytime you bring up gun control. So Bernie Sanders, I always tease him. I go, Bernie's gonna come get your guns.
Yeah, yeah. And what I don't like about that debate is like if you question or anything, or if you're like, no, I really don't see where there's policy that's going to lead to people's guns getting taken away. Like I'm just not seeing that. Then suddenly you're anti-gun. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't say anything against guns. I just said I'm not seeing it. Like I don't think anyone's coming for our guns. I'm not seeing that that's a danger. Like I
They're
just don't.
trying. They're trying because that last San Bernardino attack, which was just right here, you know, right by my house, you know, not too far away, and it's like, you know, first thing out of Obama's mouth was, "It's the gun." You know, the guns were the problem.
Right, rather than, people not having value for life. That's
Exactly.
the real problem.
Right.
Um, but I mean, we do have massive access. That's what I'm seeing. It's like everyone I know has guns, multiple guns. So like I'm saying, in reality, I'm not seeing how anybody has been impinged of their right to bear arms. Like I'm just,
Right.
in my life, I don't see it. I'm not seeing that anyone's going to take that away. I see it in the media. I see that there are
So they're trying.
certain,
They're implementing the conditioning. They're trying to influence the
mhm.
masses, and you know, so they glorify all these all these shootings, and just broadcast it over and over for days and days. So you know, so we get implanted with fear, and you know, and then it's easier for them to slip in their laws, and you know, they did right away try to slip in this gun bill, and then the Republicans shut it down.
Right. Yeah, and what's weird is like if we just enforce the laws that are already in place,
Right.
that that
So
would be something we could do because there's already like a lot of gun laws that are in place. So
right.
it's not the fact that we need more laws. It's the fact that we already have laws to keep people from, bad people from getting guns, but they're not working. So what actually is it? Um,
So I think we have to take it all back full circle, and how we brought back to the psychedelics and the healing and the unconsciousness. And, you know, I think if that was more brought into the awareness of everybody's reality, if we had access to the tools of healing, I think as a society, we would just naturally become a better society. The right people would start standing up and making the right decisions of what needs to be done, you know? So rather than trying to force these people to change, I think we all personally have to change ourselves to inspire the people around us. And, you know, it kind of has to be an inside out thing versus outside in.
we all have to be happy with just having a few guns and not an arsenal.
You know? So I hope this whole ayahuasca church expands out, you know, and more people have access to this and can deal with their own personal traumas and pain. And I think there'd be less shootings, less violence in the world. You know, right action occurs when you're connected with your true self.
Yeah, and it's not just access. That's part of it. That's part of it. Like, people have access that maybe shouldn't, if you're somebody that flies off the handle really quick, or if have a lot of strife in your relationship, you might want to just put that gun somewhere else until you work stuff out.
Right.
If you're drinking a lot, stuff like, there's things you can do to lessen the occurrences of tragedies that involve guns, but it's really at the bottom of it, it's value for life, and
Hmm.
really knowing at the core of your being how sacred life is, um, because we all have the tools to kill, whether we
Right.
have a gun or not. If that's what's in your heart.
Right. But definitely, when to be conscious, you naturally have empathy towards other people. If you if you're not connected with yourself, you're not going to care about anyone else, you know. So without that connection, that's really what's missing. So so I think there's still hope in society in the sense where, the world can actually still be better. I think this movement of consciousness through the healing of psychedelics and self-reflection is a modern thing right now in this age. So in the past, you've seen societies get to a better level of being more of a collective society than just, the way we are now, just the male dominant patterns. So one thing that's certain is if we don't change on our own, the universe will force us to change with some sort of extreme experience. It could be something as devastating as some like asteroid crashing down on the earth and forcing the whole world to change, which it's done over and over. Even books of religion talk about, their gods getting upset at how the world is run and then wiping them out for a while and letting them restart all over again, and that's what we do on a personal level all the time, with our experiences. If you get complacent, we start getting unconscious, the universe will step in and shake you from that lull.
Right. So I hope that these ayahuasca experiences lead to something better as well. And I've had a few dreams about it, even though I've never done ayahuasca myself. I've had some dreams about it involving the hummingbird and a blue, like salamander.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so, I mean, if I sort of am very passive about it, I'm like, well, if that's meant to happen, it will in my life.
Right.
Um, and I'm certainly willing to talk to people about it and their own experiences. I'm always really interested in people's transformative experiences, and I do my best not to judge how they happen, because why things happen for a reason, the way that they happen.
Right.
Um, yeah, so one of the things I noticed about the video that you sent me is just how happy these people were. They were just so excited about life, and that's great.
Right. Some people they go to the jungles of Peru. Some of them, this is like their last resort. I remember seeing a video with Lindsay Lohan. She going, with her, train wreck of a life. She speaks of having this moment of clarity and having to step through and witness her own past trauma and then speaking of how that's helped her give her tools, to lead a better life. Whether or not she's still doing it or not, it's a different story, but at least at that moment, it gives you that chance to expand who you are beyond today. That's our problem. We always think we're trying to become something, in this moment, but we're not supposed to just be something, like, oh, I made it. We're never going to cut to that point where we look in the mirror and say, I've achieved it. I'm finally there. It's like it's always expanding, always evolving, and through these past lives we've had, whether or not we've had them, one thing is certain is we're still learning. That old line, learn as if you're going to live forever, but live as you're going to die tomorrow.
Right, and we're still healing, healing, healing. Like that process never stops either.
Yeah.
That's what living is, it's healing and it's dying at the same time. Um, yeah.
So notice though, when you heal, you heal stronger than you were before. Like when
Mm-hmm.
people lift weights, you're actually tearing your muscle, and then when that muscle heals, it's bigger and stronger. So that's the thing. We do have to go through these extreme experiences. The wisest people on the earth had the opportunity to make those choices and learned to do that. That's how you get wise, you know. You don't get wise reading books of ancient people that were wise, you know. It's, you know, you're not going to get wise reading the Bible or anything like that. It's how you apply those tools in your everyday life. That's how you become wise.
Right. And how, these transformative experiences, they connect us as well, because everybody's had a transformative experience, and you want to share it. You want to go, hey, look, I was here, and now I'm over here.
Right.
And that's
Right.
amazing. Like, from here to
Right.
here, look. And someone says, yeah, I was here, and now I'm here. And, it connects you. It connects you back not only to yourself, but to community and to
Right.
others.
And it's not like I have to go out and seek people. It's like there's already people seeking for tools of healing. So, you know, if you're out there putting out work, you know, there's people that seek radio shows like this, you know, because they're just tired of listening to the same old droll, you know. So, you know, but, you know, because you're putting out these tools, you know, sometimes people are getting help that we never will even meet or hear from, you know? So these little waves that we cast out, they do cast out ripples, and it is changing stuff, whether it's in this lifetime and we see it or not. Just like all the ancient people, you still hear their words today, and their words, you know, change the whole world, yet they live, you know, a long time ago.
Yeah. So when you were having your experience, did you have any type of insight to this sort of multiple realities at the same time, or how seemingly opposing multiple realities? Did you get shown that at all in your experience?
Well, it brought to the awareness how we are multidimensional, and we couldn't even see this, how we can be in this reality, but we can also daydream and have this other layer of visionary reality kind of, you know, inside us, sort of, you know, kind of behind us, and how the two kind of intermingle. You can even be so stuck in your daydream that you even don't even realize what's going on in this world, and you're in that dream world. So just looking at that, it showed me how other layers of dimensions are kind of like almost like touching each other, you know? It's kind of like layers that are stacked up like the onion. So each of those layers sort of affect the few layers that are surrounding it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, the interaction. The,
So, you know, so some people will look out in space and just see planets, a sun and planets going around. But when I look out at the sun, I see this deity with dimensions of layers around it, and each planet is almost like the deity of that layer of dimension. And that's his little like layer, and I can see how maybe in psychedelic worlds these are like the layers that we're going through, and there are like different levels in a sense. Does that make sense?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and
And
it's
then
kind.
you look at the ancients, and they saw the planets and the sun as gods and referred to them as their deities, and you know, and they would use psychedelics and you know communicate with these outer sources.
Yeah, and the way the universe is connected, and how uh, this light is traveling through space and time to get to
Mhm.
you, and how special is that? Just the
Right.
miracle of that, of all of this. Um, that it blows my mind. It really, really does.
And now we just overlook, you know, I don't want to say how small we are, but just how vast the universe is, and just how many galaxies and planets and just life is out there. And then, but is it really in that, or are all these really just dimensions and that space that divides everything? It's, you know, it's like you could see it different ways. You know, I think it's so vast our minds just cannot comprehend it. I like how some people take a picture of like the workings of a brain, the inside, and match it with the networks of stars and galaxies, and the patterns are like almost the same. It's almost like the
Yes.
universe is like a big mind, you know? And that was one insight I did get. I felt like the layers of dimensions can also be seen like a mind inside a mind inside a mind, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like and the whole macrocosm, microcosm thing, how many different
Mm,
ways you can see that uh,
right.
is incredible. I did want to ask you, we have about 15, 20 minutes left, about your connection with the natural world and what your insight was about that, about basically this planet that we're on. I think, the sacredness of our connection to living on this planet rather than any other ones.
I know. You know, hmm. um, so, with the DMT, definitely looking at other people, you can see, it makes just everyone very, very equal because you can see the divine nature in everyone, it's not the same anymore. So it's like it's hard to judge. It's like the message I got was seeing kind of the purpose of this life of my incarnation at this point. So sort of doing the work, I could see now the path that's unfolding into what it's becoming. So I know there's these bigger battles going on, darker evil forces, you know, going on for the control of the planet in a sense. And that's what this whole chaos is on this planet. That's the waves that are going on at the cosmic level are affecting what's going on in this world. So I think the message from the divine is that we're supposed to just work on our own personal consciousness, inspire others. That will radiate out. And then with that, things will start changing on their own. That balance will shift at that cosmic level once there's more people on this planet doing that conscious work. So I could see, you know, I could see why great spirits come back to this world because there's still more work to be done. It's not done yet. It's getting there, but there's still more work to be done for us.
And so, do you feel like the work is embodying that lesson? So the more you are able to incorporate and embody that lesson, the more inspiration that you give to others to embody their lessons.
Correct. So I guess like you're saying, so like it's like by living it, that is the message, It's like
Hmm.
you have to don't just talk about it, be about it, actually do it. So
Yeah.
that is the lesson. It's easy to say, yeah, I'll start the diet next week. I'll start the diet Monday, but dreaming about the future, saying, oh yeah, okay, I'll get into consciousness, sometime. Yeah, I'll get around to it. It's like, no, it's like when you awaken, when you finally figure things out, when that light bulb turns on, it's going to be in the present moment. It's going to be in this moment, so it's like if you're not working and doing it now, you're not on that path now, you're never going to get there.
And when when your shadow sort of, taps you on the shoulder, it's not because you sent a cordial invitation.
So when you start doing the work, you start to looking at the spectrum of being. It's not about denying our light or dark side, it's about realizing that we do have this spectrum, all the archetypes in the world are all within us, and we could tap into and become any of those things anytime we choose. Most of us are just held by fears. We expect to be only showing this type of personality. And if we act a different way, people even react differently and say, what are you doing? That's not you, Kira. Why are you acting that way? But we have access to being anything. You'll see it in a drunk person. The drunk person will show a different archetype completely, than what they normally show. But it's just something that's inside them that's hidden. So it's an extension of themselves. So by realizing that you have this darker energy, you can start working on utilizing that energy as a tool, so instead of just raging out in anger, using that extreme energy, to in a positive form. So like for me, the music is how a lot of that energy is expelled, in the message and the whole intensity and the aggression of the music and the yelling and the, just it's like an extreme workout in a sense, just putting everything you have into it. And and then pretty much the rest of my life is I'm as passive as you'll ever meet, you know? Um, so that I think that's how you become empowered. You're not a slave to the unconscious reactions. You're not a slave to that shadow. You actually can shift it, you know. Sort of like in these movies like Avatar, you jump on the dragon and you become part of it, and then you can use that energy to for your, you know, em- empowerment and betterment for doing better things in this world.
You know, when the first two shows that I did with you,
Hmm.
I got some really good feedback, but then there was also this other side where it was like, "How dare you? How dare you do a show about that?" And it made me realize I'm spending a lot of time online with people who really aren't very open-minded, who really aren't trying to discover anything else. They've got it figured out, you know?
Right, right.
So it really started me on this journey of, well, now what? um, now what? So I'm glad that we've continued this conversation throughout time. Um,
Wait,
it's
it reminds me, like even like with my music, I'll get a lot of negative feedback because people expect it to be all peaceful, and you know they don't expect all this aggression to come at them. But I'm
right,
like, all right, so but that's more like what DMT is like. It's expect the unexpected. You know, it's like
right,
it you know that's my motto in life. Expect the unexpected. You know, so when something goes wrong, it's like, of course, you know, when you stub your foot, it's like, you know, you're still upset, it hurts, but you're like, you got me, you know?
and you're like a juxtaposition. So your persona is very welcoming and peaceful and nice, and then you have this really really hardcore music and this other expression, and so it people are like, wow, you know,
So you could say that's living the spectrum, you know? So my
right.
my posts are, you know, are a little bit more positive, and then I also have this dragon energy, I guess you could call it. It's kind of my voice of judgment that I had during my experience was very stern and aggressive, and that is that energy I'm resonating with, and when I'm singing my message, it's kind of like almost like that voice of judgment. You know, it's kind of forcing you to look at what you're doing. You know, forcing you to look at things. You know, like a stern father or somebody that 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 disciplines us very aggressively, you know, with that kind of intensity, but still with a loving intent in the background, you know. It's doing it because of the healing process.
Definitely, and that's what I resonate with you about. I also am very much of a juxtaposition myself, in that I have a very calm voice, and but some of my writings are pretty intense, and then just my physical presence is can be overwhelming for people. Just being a tall female, and it sort of takes people by surprise. They think I'm sort of more demure or something like that. I don't know. And then they meet me and they're like, "Wow, you're like an Amazon. Holy, you seem so." Yeah.
Yeah, though, you know, on stage, you know, I'm fierce and I'm aggressive and my hair's flying around, but you know, once I'm off stage, I'm just calm and passive, and people are shocked by that. It's funny.
And it's important to, I think, the more that we can, like you said, live the spectrum. I think that's important. I think people are inspired by that too, because we all try to put ourselves in these boxes, and we get caught up in not being able to fit in that little box, you know.
Right, right. So like utilizing that energy, you know, it kind of I wouldn't say I'm fearless, but it definitely makes me less fearful to post stuff, to say things, and to reach out and try to create new things, you know. So that's the whole thing about that spectrum and having that balance within you. It empowers you, you know, in your life to do whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, you know, even if it's at a small dead end job, it'll empower you to either leave it or to step up in that, space and become something more,
Which is great. Which is great. So, any last thoughts? I know we only have a few more minutes left. Is there anything else you wanted to get to that we didn't quite get to? Like, tell people how they can get in touch with you, or hear your music, or
So the best thing is probably my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Alistar Valadez, which is ALISTAR VALADEZ. And then you could check out the band page, which is dmtmetal.com. And then through there, if you wanted to email me, ask me any questions, it's alistarvaladez@gmail.com. Other than that, I've been working on a book for the last since 2012, putting a collection of all these writings I've been putting together and just trying to put it in some form of a book. So eventually I'll have more tools to be spreading out, to help people, with facing their shadow. That's what it is. To me, a divine moment of truth is when you face your shadow.
oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, since the last time we talked, I've had a lot of opportunities to do that. Um, they weren't fun.
I'm
They
sure
weren't fun.
you're, and that's the thing. Like, we're always changing. We're not the same we are yesterday. We're not going to be the same tomorrow. I'm sure you're probably more empowered than you were when we last spoke, and I'm at a different mindset, and everything is just evolving.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that we should continue this conversation because I'm sensing a whole new you as well, and we have to be patient too because we have these other lives, and we have to support our families and eat and pay bills, but still find time for our creative outlet.
Right.
It takes a lot of patience and a lot of ability to just keep putting the work in, knowing that it's going to manifest into something really
Right.
important.
Right. Right. Like I can see my path evolving, I can see like where it's leading to sort of. I always have these dreams and visions of like giving lectures and having my own podcast or radio show and things like that. But, I don't know how it's going to get from point A to B, so I'm just kind of letting it unfold because that vision is still vivid in me. And then it's kind of like each day is a step towards that.
Yeah, I also have been seeing presentations and things like that for myself. I would love to do that. And I think that we need more conferences and opportunities for people like us to get together and meet each other in person and talk more about these kind of things that are going on in our lives and that we're thinking about. I would love to, I don't know, I would love to have a shaman come to my house and set up a little church and, you know, who knows, maybe that'll happen too.
Maybe like a return to the tribal societies. So like the tribal societies would be the little village with the shaman, like always assigned to that city.
Yeah, to the people, because the people
Yeah.
say this is our shaman who takes care of us.
Right.
Yeah, in this world and the other one, or the other ones.
So yeah, even in that process, I think we need help in the transition. I don't know if you know like the stories of Aldous Huxley. He's an old psychedelic writer, Brave New World. He wrote some great books, but when he
Yeah,
died, he had his wife inject him with LSD as he was dying. So I find that pretty fascinating.
yeah. Timothy Leary as well went out on LSD.
Yeah.
From the
So
stories I've heard, and
right. That's
yeah,
because they felt, they've worked with it all their lives. They felt, that these psychedelics are sort of that bridge, between this world and the other world. And they utilize it in their life as that tool. They developed it. So when they died, they were prepared as a ritual ceremony, just like the ancients did. It was very ritualistic, and it helps in that transition. I think a lot of people that die cold in a hospital, that shouldn't be the way we're transitioning. That's why there's so much reincarnation and overpopulation. It's like we need that help crossing over. Even when we die, we can still hear. There's still that bridge, that still connects us, and there's still help. Words of encouragement. Anytime you're dealing with something you're about to go through, it's always good to have that reassurance and backing behind you, just to affirm and help push you through.
Absolutely. You- I find it horrifying to think of people transitioning without their family around them, without
Right.
the support that you would expect in such a situation. And you're talking about the difference between consciously dying too, or consciously letting go of this world and embracing the next. And
Right.
well, with that, we're going to transition to the next show. Y'all stick around. I'm sure we have another great show coming up next. And thank you so much, Alistar, for joining me again.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.